Welcome to a new video and a new trap. And the game started with e4, c5, Sicilian defense, and d4. And this is the Morra Gambit or the Smith-Morra Gambit. C take d4, c3, and now start the gambit. D take c3, knight c3, and e6. Knight f3, bishop to b4. And this is a slight inaccuracy from black because now he is going to enter a slight difficult position. Queen to d4, attacking the bishop and attacking the pawn on g7. And maybe he can play bishop to f8 and saves the extra pawn, but white has a good lead in development. So black chose to play knight c6 and continue with his development and keeping his development with equality with white, but it's not clear. So queen takes g7, and now the pawn is back. Queen to f6, trying to exchange the piece, exchange queens now. So excellent move from white. Bishop to h6, developing and protecting the queen. Bishop to e7. Now the bishop is back. So the bishop retreat. Queen takes f6, and bishop takes f6. And now black has a bad position, and white gain his pawn back. Bishop to f4, and now this is the position where white achieve a good position and slight advantage. Knight g to e7, and white castles queenside. Knight g6, attacking the bishop, and bishop to d6, preventing any castling for a black king. a6, knight to a4, bishop to d8, bishop e2, completing the development. b6, h4, f6, h5, and knight g to e5. And we are going to see the moves slight quick because it's not our main concern for this video. It's the gambit, and the gambit is queen to d4, and it's okay. Knight to e5, knight to e5, h6, bishop to b7, bishop h5 check, knight to g6, rook h e1, rook c8, king to b1, bishop to c6, knight c3, bishop to c7, bishop c7, rook c7, knight d5, excellent move and tricky. Bishop take d5, e take d5, e5, f4. Of course, we have the two rooks in the center. We should open the lines or the files for the rooks. King to d8, trying to unpin the knight on g6. Bishop take g6, h take g6, pawn take f5, pawn take f5, and rook take f5. And now white is a pawn up. And rook takes h6, equality back. Rook d to e1, rook to c5, rook g5, rook h5, trying to exchange. Rook take g6, rook h take d5, and rook take b6. And now back white pawn up. Rook to d2, rook to c1, trying to exchange, of course. When you are a pawn up or a piece up or material up, you should exchange some pieces. Rook take a6, and rook to b5. And now white is two pawns up, but the pawn on g2 is under attack or falling. b3, rook take g2, rook c2, rook to g3, rook d2, rook to b7, king to b2, rook e3, and rook to h6. And now this is a very good maneuver for the rooks, and a very good technique for the endgame, because now the two connected passed pawn from AB for white is very powerful. Rook to g3, rook h7, rook f3, rook g7, rook h3, rook g6, rook to e3, rook g to d6, king to e7, rook 6 to d4, rook g3, rook e2 check, king d8, rook e to d2, rook e3, and rook e6, a3, rook e to b6, b3, and now the march for the two pawns starts. The two pawns for white will march to the winning row. Rook h6, rook d5, rook h1, and b5, and see the pawns are marching to the 8th rank. Rook to g1, a4. Black doing nothing, just waiting for white to do any mistake. But it's easy for white to play. Rook g4, king b3, rook g1, a5, and now more and more the pawns approaching the final rank. Rook g3 check, king b4, rook g4, and rook 5 to d4, blocking. Rook to g1, b6, rook b1, check, king to c5, king to c8, and rook to c4, and now this is the tricky move. d5, and now king to d5 with check, king to d8, king to c6 with check, king to c8, and rook d8 check, and now king take, and this is a clear winning position for white. So this is our trap, or our trick for today, for this video. Thank you for watching, and see you next video and next trap. Bye.